Hello, and you are listening to FPcast, the podcast for fruitless pursuits where we bullshit about the week in pop culture. I'm Luke.
And I'm Jacinta.
And this week we're talking about...
television, collectibles, video games, comics, books, board games, and more.
Hugs on your face.
Oh dear, slimy face hugs.
I know.
Acidy face hugs. Really?
And you got to see this time the little tube thing that goes like sticking down your throat. I don't feel like we got to see that too often, but I saw it flopping around, spilling a bit of fluid.
Yeah, that's fun out of context, isn't it?
It was very relatable, I thought. But holy crap, look, we take 1 week off. And the thing is, the pop culture world, did it take a week off?
No, that train just keeps on a-rolling.
It does. It kept going. So I feel like we've got so much to cover today on a show, which is already, it's a Skype show. You haven't had much sleep because of one particular pop culture event.
Yes, I am. To say that I'm running on fumes is to be generous. So, bear with me over the next hour because I don't know where this is going to go.
You got up at 3 a.m. to watch the Eurovision final live. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So we're definitely going to talk about Eurovision. I'm thinking maybe we should save that for the end of the show. Mm-hmm. But we're going to do a little bit of news, some trailer talk, and then our film today is Alien Covenant. I also feel like there's been a heap of wonderful new TV that's been on in this past 2 weeks, so huge amounts to talk about. And then, this cake, you'd think, another tier on that thing, it's going to topple over. You're going to put Eurovision on top.
Which, it will make it topple over, but it will just be an explosion of, glitter and sparkles and spandex and stuff.
And little plastic...
Mesh shirts this year. Lots of mesh shirts.
Little plastic figures of you and I sitting on top. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wonderful. And so if that cake sounds appealing to you, sit down, tuck a napkin into your collar, and we're going to cut you off a massive slice.
Uh-huh.
How smooth was that?
Yeah, good.
Wait,
and if you don't like the sound of that cake, then too bad.
Fuck off. That's you
know
don't
what
get
you
to
signed
choose
up
the
for,
cake.
so...
Yeah. All right, so news-wise, I wish I had a little... okay, I'll play this. Slowly.
Movies.
But it's really news. It's not a movie review.
Mm-hmm.
I'll play this instead.
What if she is the one?
How about that?
Oh, good. Yeah, good. We haven't done that one for a while.
No, we haven't. I've been pretty quiet on the old soundboard of late, but who knows? Maybe the appropriate time will arise. Yeah, so I think maybe some of the biggest news and most interesting was this idea of the Hellboy franchise getting a big screen reboot. So they're previously helmed by...
Del Toro?
Yes, I was hoping you would make an attempt at the first name.
Oh, isn't it Guillermo?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he just even earlier this year, I believe, was making a last-ditch attempt to try and get the finance, the green light, everyone on board to do Hellboy 3, because there were certainly things that were set up in Hellboy 2 that have not reached fruition. Mm-hmm. And he said, look, it's not going to happen. And I guess people thought it was because there was a lack of interest in Hellboy on the big screen, but turns out no. Mike Mignola, the creator and original artist-writer of Hellboy, had a different person in mind. Did not want the Del Toro.
You say that his output has toned down a little bit over the last couple of years, but I don't know. I've never read a Hellboy comic in my entire life, but I have seen the movies, and I did quite enjoy them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly didn't mind them at the time either. I think they're fun. I remember I had a weird experience with 2, because seeing 2 in the cinema, I was really impressed with it. And I loved the sort of Henson-esque vibe of the sort of troll market thing. The Angel of Death, all these great ideas, the big tentacled creature. Like, I felt like it offered a lot. It was like one of those Henson-esque creature movies. But then I bought it on Blu-ray, and I watched it again a couple of years later for the first time, and it did not hold up for me in terms of the characterizations and the dialogue and just the kind of clunkiness of it.
Yeah, right.
So, and I do feel that while he always has great visuals, there is something kind of a bit clunky and goofy about his take on the series. Like, maybe the actual Hellboy parts themselves so atmospheric.
Okay.
So-
I've only seen it once. I think I saw it on TV once, so I have no particular memories of it.
Yeah, I wish him well. I think Del Toro is one of those people that kind of gets elevated in the whole geek pop culture sphere, but then he made Pan's Labyrinth, which, and again, I've only seen it once, I thought was brilliant. I think it was my favourite film of that year. But then I really didn't like Pacific Rim. I really didn't like Crimson Peak. So he's hit and miss for me. So with that in mind, I'm more than happy to see someone else have a shot at it and sort of, see a Hellboy sequel or a new Hellboy without any of the baggage of the original ones. We've got...
and I mean, if we can reboot Batman and Spider-Man, why not reboot Hellboy?
That's right, and we've got David Harbour as Hellboy. He's the guy from Stranger Things that just missed out on cable. We've got Neil Marshall directing. If you're not familiar with Neil Marshall, he directed Dog Soldiers initially, Centurion.
Centurion is one of my favourites.
I believe you introduced us to Centurion. And Game of Thrones, he is the one that they get in to do the really big battle stuff. So he did Blackwater and also Watchers on the Wall. So those episodes which are just full on 50-minute battles, that's your guy. So that's all very cool. Also going to be R-rated, which I guess is going to shift tones and take us into more of that Deadpool Logan kind of territory.
Yeah, well, do we even bother doing comic book movies if they're not R-rated anymore? Because R-rated movies are for adults and comic book movies are for adults now.
I'm an adult. It's not enough for me to just see a boy from hell. I want to see a boy from fucking hell.
Yeah.
And
he used to punch his massive fist right through a guy. Otherwise, I just won't believe his characterization.
Yeah. And have and can you imagine the masturbation jokes he could do with that giant fist of doom?
Yeah. Lots of horn jokes.
Yeah. So, but I'm sure Del Toro is gonna cope. I think he's been in his room all weekend listening to Taylor Swift's Bad Blood. On repeat, having a cry. But that's interesting. And the other bit of news that I thought was worthy of our discussion was the New Mutants casting, which is the exact confirmation of rumours before. We might have even talked about these rumours before. But I actually think it's just perfect. It's two actors that I'm very excited about. And I'm certainly more excited about a New Mutants spin-off, again, without the baggage, as opposed to future X-Men movies.
Is this a movie or a TV series?
It's a movie.
Movie, okay.
So, introducing a bunch of characters from the New Mutants comics, which I think then sort of, in the 90s, I think those characters were kind of getting wrapped into X-Force. So there's certainly potential for crossovers later with that. I think they're comfortable with the Cable Deadpool kind of universe, but these are two of the female leads, and we have Maisie Williams as Wolfsbane turning into a wolf lady.
Nice. A very tiny little wolf.
Yeah, she's more like the character in the comics, at least, more like a werewolf, not, furry, not like a on all fours running in the pack, licking itself wolf.
Like a Twilight Jacob wolf.
Magic is being played by Anna Joy Taylor from...
what's she from?
From The Witch and Split.
Oh, okay.
And I really like her. I think she's awesome. So, and really has a good look for that character. I mean, obviously, I don't think that you should cast people that just look like the character because, you can make them look like the character, but I do think it's a really good fit. And Magic is Colossus's little sister.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, again, there is some crossover potential there if they're going to tie that in. So, yeah, that's exciting. That's something new. So... we're hitting that point now where the superhero landscape has been very similar for a while, and we're seeing iterations of the same things. So yeah, let's give us something new without
cool.
Having to wheel Patrick Stewart through it all the time.
Yeah, well, they've already said that I think James McAvoy is not going to be in this one. It's going to be all new.
Yeah, well, look, it's right there in the title, so...
Well, yes.
Are they going to get sued for false advertising? Not this time, pal. All right, and trailers, and I've put this on the list, and did you watch this?
I have watched this, yes.
So we're talking about the trailer for Blade Runner 2049. Crazy that a Blade Runner sequel is actually like, one, taken this long to happen, but is sort of finally happening. And what did you think of that?
Well, I actually, admission time, I haven't actually seen the original Blade Runner, even though I am a big Harrison Ford fan. All I'd heard over many years is that it's a bit slow and that there was a bit of because isn't there two versions? There's the theatrical version and some other version, like where they fixed it up or something.
Yeah. Well, more true to the director's vision. It wasn't a movie, I believe. Look, Blade Runner fans are going to be cringing here, but I believe that, because I don't have a really tight relationship with it either. I've certainly seen it, and I appreciate how revolutionary the look was at the time, but I don't recall a huge amount about the story. But there was a lot of battling over the director's cut, I believe, and the intent. And I don't think it was a runaway success to begin with. It was something that became a bit of a cult hit. I think that's interesting, though, to hear your take. Having not seen it, like, is this something you want to see?
Well, I mean, yes, more on the basis of that it's got Ryan Gosling and Harrison Ford in it. I guess as far as the concept goes, the trailer didn't sell me on it a whole lot. Like, it was interesting enough, but I watched that trailer thinking I probably need to have seen Blade Runner to kind of be getting more of these concepts. I know about is it the replicants? Yeah, I know kind of about that, but I don't know much else beyond that.
And really, it's a case of we've got Denis Villeneuve directing this, and who gave us Arrival, and what was the other one he gave us that we really liked? Oh, Sicario.
Was that him?
Was that him? I think that was him.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure, but there definitely was something else that we watched recently. Anyway,
yeah, okay. Well, look, if you can vamp, I'll look it up.
No, I'm not good at vamping.
Yeah,
I'm the worst at vamping.
Well, pretend to be a vampire. Say, like, I want to suck your blood.
One,
There you go.
Two, Have you found it yet?
Yes, it is directed by him.
Okay, good.
Hey, look, that was a pretty good vamp, because that could have gone on for as long as it took.
It could have, that's correct.
You know, we could be on dial-up right now, and that would have worked. So, well done. Well done, everybody. Something that did strike me, though, and I know this is a chicken-egg, snakehead eating its own tail thing, but especially with those huge sort of holographic advertisements. And I think my favourite shot in that trailer is that, like, huge woman with the coloured wig sort of interacting with tiny, was it Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's only like two people in the movie. So
on the walkway. I really enjoyed that image. But so much of that visual is also done very, very well in the recent Ghost in the Shell movie. And it certainly had a very similar feel to that. But again, they're all influencing each other. And it looks like Harrison Ford's playing his... I used to be Han Solo, used to be kind of, I was young once, jaded, sort of, oh shit, okay, let's do this again character.
Is it Deckard? Is that him? Yeah, okay.
And I think the original is ambiguous too, as to, especially with the director's...
Whether he was a replicant or not? Yeah.
So I don't know if that...
I know a bunch of stuff about it, but I've never actually seen it.
What I think's interesting about it is that Ridley Scott chose not to direct that, but is spending his time doing Alien Covenant, which we're going to talk about later, which I know we're going to have differing opinions on, but just that idea that you would think, well, he's kind of done that and he's gone back to that. You would think that would be the thing that he would pass off onto somebody else and say, I'm producer, you now bring some new ideas and shape this. And Blade Runner would be the prize to go back to. I mean, that said, he's picked a brilliant director and it might be a lot better for it. But, I'm just curious about that decision. I could probably Google it and read some interviews and find out. But at the risk of having you count
Vamp
to...
again?
Yeah, 1,000 while I do that. Let's not worry about it. So, speaking of Alien Covenant, let's get straight into our review, because I'm conscious of how much we want to cover today. So this is a sequel to Prometheus set 10 years later, and certainly ties into that film and advances that story and sets up for future sequels, which we know there's supposed to be like 4 or 5 or something planned. So I know you weren't such a big fan of it. What's your takeaway? More of the same?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I wasn't a big Prometheus fan, and I kind of wasn't too keen to see this one either. And I think ultimately, while it did have a few sort of moments and scenes that seemed to be trying to specifically placate me and get me interested, ultimately more of the same for me. I think it was better than Prometheus, but then that's not really saying a lot for me.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair comment. Like, I think if you really aren't into a series and like the way I am with Fast and Furious, I'm not going to get the same thing out of it. You know that I'm not going to... Like, what can they do in that series that I'm going to come out and go, oh, I really enjoyed that. That really surprised me.
Yeah, exactly. And I am the same with Aliens. I mean, when I was younger, I mean, you know, the sorts of movies I don't like watching, and, a scary monster on a spaceship is not my kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I didn't have that kind of childhood, relationship with it. And so I'm coming into it now going, well, this is not my thing. No matter how hard I try with this series, it's just not for me.
I'd like to dig into it a little bit. I really enjoyed it. I definitely had fun with the movie. I think, though, that if you're someone that didn't enjoy Prometheus, then no. Like, I think if you're carrying any baggage about the Alien series, I would say just hold off, because I think this is actually the sort of film that if you're still all angry about Prometheus and have carried around all those issues and said, oh, but the thing was rolling and why didn't you go sideways and all that sort of stuff. If you're that guy, then I just wouldn't worry about it. And I would watch it on Netflix or something later on, and then you probably go, oh yeah, that was fine. Like, I quite enjoyed that. So, I think maybe people need that distance. I really enjoyed it to a sort of... I think I gave it 3.5 on Letterboxd.
I think I gave it 2.5, which is more than I gave Prometheus.
Yeah, I really like Prometheus. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions in it and leaps of faith, and there's certainly lots of crazy behaviour in it. But I don't see that as a bigger criticism as a lot of people do, and I think it's because... I hate that knee-jerk internet thing where people go, oh, but why would they try and touch the creature, and why would they do this, and acting like they've thought of something that the filmmakers haven't thought of, like that they're smarter than the filmmakers, that, you've seen the credits on that thing, that there were all these people, or even just Ridley Scott, who has spent all this time on the movie, that they just didn't even think of that, or didn't see that, or didn't go, well, why didn't she run sideways, or whatever. I think they're people that are making the film and going, oh, wouldn't it be really fun if we did this? And, oh, my God, like, imagine that moment. And then you think they're going to back away from it, but he's going to touch... They're building scenes and they're doing things that they're really having fun with at the time that they think are going to be great. And then people lash back. And I think there's lots of movies like that. Lucy's another example where people want to go, oh, but you don't use only 10% of your brain. That's a myth. Of course it is, but that movie has, like, dinosaurs in it. It's not what the filmmaker's trying to do. They're trying to take you on a thrill ride. And I love how audacious Prometheus is. Like, there are moments for me which are just pure joy, like where she's in the operating chamber trying to get the creature removed. Things like that are just nuts. Like, I think there's so many weird, over-the-top, audacious things in there, which rubbed people the wrong way, but I don't mind an audacious decision. Yeah, in the same way that I defend the fridge decision in Indiana Jones. Like, I like people to make bold choices and to kind of surprise me. Now, I think that all said, you're not going to find those kinds of problems as blatant at all in Covenant, because Covenant plays it so much safer. It doesn't take those big risks, and I feel like it kind of suffers a bit for that. It doesn't have as many memorable sequences, whether you loathe those sequences or love those sequences. It plays it a little bit safer, and I think what it really does is, because it does add to the alien lore, it adds some more backstory. Remember, these are prequels to the original, so this is about creation and creators and the origin of the aliens. it adds a little bit more lore, but it really isn't like another handful. You know, this stuff's being sort of slowly drip fed to us. And because of that, and knowing that they've got more to do in the future, I feel like we're getting into that expensive TV series thing where you're watching another episode and you enjoy it, but then it sets you up for another episode, as opposed to that thing which is like the originals were, where it's like, here is this standalone movie that, you know, could become a classic.
Yeah, and I've got to say, like, if I did sort of have to say that I enjoyed something, it was actually some of that stuff with the kind of creation when they were being chased by aliens and there was an alien in the ship. Like, that's where I was bored. Like, I liked that, the development of the, I guess, the world in a way, but I was just, because to me, coming in at this point, like, and when I see an alien, like, it's not really a scary thing anymore. It's such a, I don't know, like a pop culture punchline or just some statue that a nerd dude has on his desk. Like, the alien itself is so removed from its original kind of thing for me that I like all the other stuff. I just don't like the aliens.
I can see that, but I feel, to Ridley Scott's credit, like, something I love about this, and I think if, you know, as with most things, if you were going to pull it apart and have a major criticism, I feel like it would be more script-based. And it's not that it's a bad script or you know, that the dialogue's bad or anything like that. I just think that it perhaps doesn't go anywhere surprising or new. It has moments of that, but overall it follows the formula in the same way that a Jurassic Park movie is a Jurassic Park movie, and this is an Alien movie. And Prometheus showed that when you strayed from the formula, you tend to, no pun intended, alienate people. And they find it, you know, not everyone's going to be on board the new concepts because they don't necessarily feel that jives with what they think of as that franchise. But when you don't introduce new concepts and you stick too close to the formula, then it becomes stale and it becomes, we've seen this before. That said, right from the beginning, I loved the look and the feel of this thing, and I really enjoyed the direction. Like, I really personally love being in this world. I like the characters, and I thought what he did with the alien was actually quite good. Like, and, you know, coming off seeing something like Life, for example, which was nowhere near as successful in that, I think his restraint with the alien in this one, it was really quite good. Like, I don't think the alien gets overused. I think it's quite visceral. And there's a lot to be said for all the various genetic variants and the evolution of the alien, because it's always been about body horror. And while, and there was some new stuff in there with the body horror, and there were some versions of the alien in this film which are not the standard xenomorph, some things that were actually really quite creepy. And I like the sort of imagery that they're willing to play around with. So I thought that stuff was kind of effective. I just don't think it built. Like, when the alien is chasing them at the end, I don't think that's a spoiler. You know that's going to happen. I just don't think it managed to build to that kind of memorable climax of, you know, get away from her, you bitch, in the exoskeleton, or...
Yeah, I thought the that ultimate kind of climax and dispatch of the alien was actually a little anticlimactic. I assumed it was going to miraculously come back somehow, but no, that was it.
I agree with you. Like, even the Alien 4, isn't it? Alien Resurrection, which people don't like, but has the alien hybrid thing getting sucked out that hole. Do you remember that?
No. Resurrection's the third one?
Fourth one. The one with Winona Ryder.
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, it gets sucked through a hole, like a breach in the glass, a hole. Mm-hmm. So it still gets sucked out into space, as aliens often do, but it goes through a hole, which is like a gunshot hole. Mm-hmm. So it strips all the skin off, and it just sort of like gets sucked through, and you see all its anatomy in various layers. So, you know, it's quite a memorable little set piece. But there were some cool things. I really liked the cast. I love that you have someone like Danny McBride in here, and he gets some moments where he really gets to act. He really gets to act dramatically, and just that proof. I feel like we always say this when people are like, oh, so-and-so can't act, or this person can only do this. It's like, do they get a chance to do something else? Anybody who's progressed to that stage usually has some extra chops. Speaking of which, I watched an episode of Master of None, and John Benjamin was in a scene. Mm-hmm. He's the voice of Archer, isn't he? And a heap of other characters, like he's in the coach in home movies and things. And he plays an actor in that, and he does a scene on stage in this really dramatic play where he has this breakdown. He's fantastic. And you just would never know that, because when does he get to do that?
Mm.
So, yeah. And, of course, Catherine Waterston.
Mm-hmm. From Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah, doing a Ripley echo.
Yeah, Ripley-esque.
Yeah, and even then, and I guess that's another example, isn't it, where she's really good. Like, I thought she did a great job, but they never found that sci-fi icon that Ripley became. Even as they started paring away the people around her and putting more focus on her having to deal with things, she never gets the chance to be that. Not yet, anyway, that iconic character. Whereas Michael Fassbender is starting to become a quite iconic character.
Yeah. I mean, no surprise that I enjoyed him, but I think he has even a lot more to do in this one than the last one, and I definitely enjoyed that element.
Yeah, look, I think of it fondly. It wasn't our plan to go and see it together. We were supposed to be seeing Wilson, the Woody Harrelson, Daniel Clowes graphic novel adaptation, and we just couldn't get to the press screening. The freeway was blocked.
Yeah, so Alien Covenant was my punishment. I would have much rather seen Wilson, but it was fine.
So we'll catch Wilson when it comes out, because I'm still keen for that. And so it was
2 weeks, I think.
It was Alien or Snatched.
Yeah. I've heard a few people this weekend reviews and kind of casual reviews and stuff, just saying that they walked out of Snatched and they've never walked out of a film before. Yeah,
it doesn't look good, but I heard she gets a boob out.
Oh, wow, great.
So,
wait, Goldie Hawn or
no? That's her getting a leather wallet out to pay for something. I can understand the confusion.
Right.
All right. Well, there we go. So let's switch it up to TV. Mm-hmm. Some grand openings in the last 2 weeks, particularly in the realm of books being adapted into TV series. Now, you've seen both of these as well, yeah?
Yes, I am one episode behind on both at the moment, both The Handmaid's Tale and American Gods. So I've watched up to number 4 for Handmaids, and I've only watched the first episode of American Gods.
I'm caught up, 5 episodes of Handmaid and 2 of American Gods, and I'm really enjoying them both.
Yeah. I have read Handmaid's Tale. I haven't read American Gods.
Oh, well, I'm the opposite, so that's the perfect position for us to talk about this.
Yeah, admittedly, I don't remember a lot about Handmaid's Tale. I read it when I was 17 in high school. I remember a few very, very specific sort of moments and scenes, but I don't really remember, I guess, the overarching story, which is making this quite interesting because I don't really remember how it ends. But yeah, I think it's really, really well done, actually. It's really a nice version of this story. It's very appropriate for today's world, and I think it's quite scary thinking that it only takes such a minor change for this world to take hold, basically.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's such a big change. Like, the world that they're in is almost unrecognizable in terms of the structure. It feels like such a leap back in time. But then when you get all the flashbacks, it's a very modern world. And you think and because of like this inevitable comparisons or mentions or links that people will make to Trump, there's part of me that wants to fight the premise of Handmaids and go, well, but how would that happen? That wouldn't really happen. No one would stand for that. But then you go, well, what are people standing for now? How are all these things happening around us? Like, how have things gotten to where they are? And, you know, is this just the early part of something that later on you go, well, how did we let that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you could, it starts with, restrictions of women's rights, but you could, I could totally see something happening where they, restrict, Muslims from having bank accounts or poor people from having access to things or, and just starting that way and then snowballing from there. Like, it's scarily reasonable. That's the awful thing about this story.
Yeah, I found it very harrowing, particularly the first few episodes really hit me. And as a privileged white male watching it, I just felt awful. I just wanted to go give Suzanne lots of hugs afterwards. Because, there are concepts in there, even things that I will never have to face in my life, but just things that I felt were really tough. So, very effective and very curious to see how that all pans out without having to read a book. I have one sort of question that I want to kind of mine with it, that if you don't remember it very well, you might not have the answer here, but maybe someone on Facebook will, or I know there are people I should talk about it at work, but I'm curious as to the updating of it. Because you have scenes in the flashbacks where they're using Tinder and things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas, of course, this book is from the 80s. And I wonder... I don't have an answer. I just want the perspective. I want to know, like, if that makes it effective and it's more effective now to have it modernized, or would we believe that something like this could happen more easily in that sort of pre-internet environment where situations for people were even worse than they are now?
Yeah, possibly. The only real changes that I sort of think Offred's a bit more, not like kind of sassy and sarcastic a little bit in this series as opposed to in the book. And I think there's a lot more people of colour in the series than were in the book. I think in the book, pretty much everyone just kind of got shipped off if you weren't white. And here it's if you have certain desirable qualities, you're allowed to hang around.
Well, regardless, and I'm certainly never opposed to changes between mediums, and I feel like this is such a great time because, and I don't know if Game of Thrones is really the one that opened the doors to this, but to have these pretty high budget, slick adaptations of really well-respected stories that have been around for a while is just fantastic, because it's the perfect medium for them, like not trying to cram it into a film and losing a lot of the impact, but to be able to, put the resources into doing something like this is so cool. And which brings us perhaps then to American Gods by Neil Gaiman, which I've read the book, and I always feel like, I know this is controversial because everybody loves Neil Gaiman, but I feel like everybody loves Neil Gaiman when you're a teenager. Because you go, he's so deep and he gets me and he understands this. And he's certainly someone with a lot of great ideas. Whether he can take those ideas across the finish line is where I have my doubts. And American Gods felt for me, the book, like something that was all dressed up with nowhere to go. Like I found the third act awful. But I liked some of the ideas along the way. I like the characters, but I don't always love his style. So I'm actually surprised at how much I'm enjoying the TV series, which they have said they're going to change the ending. We've just had the announcement that there's going to be a series 2. And it is a concept that you don't have to rush to wrap up like the book does. You've got all these great characters and this great sort of mythology. I can see you could continue it indefinitely.
As I said, I haven't read the book, so I feel like that first episode, like I got enough out of it, but I feel like I'm missing a lot having not read the book. So I liked it enough. I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm not going to watch this week to week. This is one that I'm going to kind of keep a few in hand and then binge at the end. I think that's going to be a much more satisfying watch for me, because I think being drip fed a lot of these kind of ideas and concepts is going to be a bit frustrating.
I mean, it's very, very simple, and like it's but the show doesn't necessarily come right out and say it. But it's about a battle between old gods and new gods. New gods being things like technology and, the lure of the internet, television, etc. And that's where people put their belief. And the old gods being, characters like Odin, who have sort of started to fade away because of the lack of belief. And because that is the premise, you could go on indefinitely. There's lots of room to introduce new things, but I've really enjoyed seeing these characters come to life, and I particularly feel like Ian McShane, I mean, of course he's great and everything, but such a good Mr. Wednesday, like, note perfect, exactly what I would expect from reading the book. So it's a show I'm really looking forward to week, whereas there are some things, even Legion, I really enjoyed Legion, but I was like, I'll watch it all in one hit when it's done.
I was the same. It's all done now, and it's sitting there on my my Hulu, going, "Come on, watch me."
Yeah, I
and
haven't done
every
it
time I
yet.
sit down, I'm just like, "Oh, I think Legion's going to be a bit too challenging for me tonight. I'll come back to that another time."
Same, yeah, that's exactly it. It's that sort of feeling, and there is so much about to happen as well with Twin Peaks, and there's going to be another Kimmy Schmidt, Master of None Series 2 just came out. Orange is the New Black's coming up. There's just so much. I did do all of Master of None Series 2. I finished that today. And did you watch the first season?
I didn't finish it. I watched some of it. I liked it.
Yeah. Well, what surprised me, like, I liked Love, and the second season of Love went off the rails for me. I wasn't as engaged. I felt like that thing is so front-loaded that they kind of treaded water in the second season. Master of None, I'm so impressed at his ability to keep that really high level of quality through a whole another 10 episodes. And particularly by that, I mean, he is so experimental with the structure and the type of storytelling. Like, there's an episode where he's barely in it. It's just about New York, and it follows different groups of New Yorkers that sort of, and then the camera will pan across to another group. And it's like these little vignettes. And one of the couples are deaf, and that whole, 10 minutes is no sound at all. There's no soundtrack. Okay. And there's an episode where it's about his friend Denise, about her coming out and her relationship with her parents and being gay and being black and gay. And it's told through a series of Thanksgiving dinners from childhood to the present. So all these ways to tackle issues, think about things, and really experiment. There's an episode that's black and white with subtitles, and experiment with form, but at the same time, the series has its definite own feel. Like, you never think you're watching anything other than Master of None. It's not discordant. And his unique voice is there the whole time. I just think it's so impressive and so, ambitious compared to so many other shows. It's not like, we're going to have a musical episode one time and that's our difference. This is really just strong, thoughtful stuff. So, I definitely recommend that. We're talking, if you don't know what the fuck we're talking about, because we didn't set it up very well, Aziz Ansari's show on Netflix, which I was going to say is a half-hour comedy, but...
yeah, it's not really a comedy.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of everything. It feels like a really well-written play, to be honest. And the other great thing about this sort of format of Netflix, watching one of the episodes, I'm thinking, I'm surprised this hasn't finished yet. Oh, that episode's like an hour long. Why? Yeah. Just because that's what it needed to be to, so some of them are 36 minutes long. Some of them, great. Like, why? You don't need to be in those containers anymore. They were established from a completely different model decades ago. So I love that that's why I love fucking Netflix so much as well. Like, as a company, just the trust and faith they have in putting all this money into letting people have their vision, do what they want, be unique, and not go, well, we're only paying for 30 minutes each time. But to go, look, if this one has to be an hour, let's do it. So good. Yeah,
cool.
And were there any other TV series you want to talk about? There was one I wanted to mention from a diversity level.
No, I don't think I've caught up on anything else this week. It's mainly just been Handmaid's Tale and a few bits and pieces.
I'm going to keep this really brief then. Midnight Sun, set in Sweden. I think it's a Sweden-France production. I watched it, 8 episodes season. I watched it on SBS On Demand. Detective show about a French female detective coming to investigate a grisly murder, and it's not the only murder that happens throughout the course of this series. Going to a place in Sweden where it is light all the time. Mm-hmm. And because I know, like, this isn't something people are going to be jumping to see, I'm just going to tell you, this is a spoiler, but I'm going to tell you what the opening shot is. Mm-hmm. And that's all I'll say about this show. And if that opening shot intrigues you, go and watch it.
Okay.
But it's an old guy waking up. The camera's above him. He's laying on his back. And he's waking up, and he sort of looks around, and he starts to sort of look nervous about where he is. And then we realise he's tied to, like, a metal board. And the camera's sort of zooming up. It's rising into the air so that we're getting a bigger bird's eye view. Then we realise he's actually strapped to a helicopter rotor.
Okay.
And then there's a helicopter, and we're looking down at it, and then the blades slowly start to spin, and he starts to scream, and then the blades get faster and faster and faster and become a blur, and then he becomes this, like, big streak of blood that sprays everywhere.
Okay.
That's your opening shot. So if you want to know how that happened or why or what's going on, it's called Midnight Sun, and it's interesting. I quite enjoyed it. And as I said, that's not the only person to die. I think by the end of that first episode, I was pretty hooked. And it's got Peter Stormare in it.
Okay.
From a lot of Coen brother films, and from American Gods is in episode 2 as Chernobog. So quite enjoyable.
Okay.
All right. Let me turn it all over to you for your favourite time of the year, Eurovision.
Yeah, oh my God, it's like Christmas. Good Lord. So, Eurovision, a very big fandom of mine, really. Like, this is a thing that I've been into for a long time. I think this year is actually my 20th anniversary of Eurovision. First one in 1997, and yes, as you said earlier, I did get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to watch it. Now that Australia is a competitive entrant, we do get to vote, and I have waited a long time to be able to vote in this shit, so I get up very early to be able to do that. Last year, it was won by a lady from the Ukraine. There was a lot of controversy about that, because Eurovision was set up, I guess, in the shadow of about 10 years or so after World War II, as kind of a unifying thing for Europe, right? Because the bad thing has happened. They want to kind of bring everyone back together, and singing pop songs is the way to do it, right? So the whole point of Eurovision is that it's not political, okay? They want you to leave your shit at home and just come out, just sing some songs. It'll all be good. But last year, the Ukraine had a song that kind of threw a bit of shade at Russia, and Russia weren't super happy about it, and a lot of people weren't happy about it because a lot of people thought the song should have probably been disqualified at the the submission stages or the qualifying stages, and it wasn't. And then it won, and everyone was a little bit pissy. And then to, I guess, add salt to the wound, obviously the winners get to host it the next year, and Ukraine went, well, Russia, you're not coming. They just straight out
I didn't know
said,
that.
well, yeah. Well, I think technically they're not allowed to straight out ban countries, but what had happened is the Russian representative had gone and performed on the Crimean Peninsula, which the Crimean Peninsula is basically why Ukraine and Russia hate each other, right? Lots of complicated history there. I won't go into it too much, but basically there's a bit of land in the middle between Ukraine and Russia, and they both have had control of it at different points. Russia took it over quite recently, I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and so there's some pretty fresh tension happening there. And there's a law that if you visit the Crimea but you come through Russia, then you're banned from the Ukraine for a period of like 3 years or something. And this contestant had, or the entrant had gone and performed in a city on the Crimean, and had come through Moscow. And so Ukraine have gone, oh, what? Can't come for Eurovision, you're banned. And so Russia went, you know what? Fuck you. This is too hard. Don't be a dickhead. We're just not coming.
Right.
And that was that. So this is a pretty tumultuous start for Eurovision this year, you know? Like, there's already some shit going on.
That's pretty heavy for a competition that features a song which is a mix between yodeling and rapping.
Exactly. So people are kind of pissy at Ukraine for bringing all this shit. So this was meant to be, you know, to get the train back on the right tracks. And, it was a bit of a tepid Eurovision, I have to say. Of the last even 5 or 6 years, I think there's been some pretty good stuff to come out of it. And I think this year there was a couple of highlights, but I think across the board it was a little bit soft, I have to say.
I would agree. I think the staging was quite small. I haven't watched the final yet. I've watched the 2 semi-finals, and there certainly wasn't that craziness that we've seen in previous years, like with the milkmaids and... you know, there's a lack of, like, heaps of people on stage doing wacky things with big props. Instead, there was mostly stand and deliver in a big dress ballads.
Yeah, and when they did have props, they were a bit kind of, like, useless. Like, there was, I can't remember what country it was, but they had, like, cannons on stage that did nothing.
That was cool, though.
Well, like, it looked cool, but they were just cannons. And then there's, like, a guy... I did actually like the moon one.
But they were sex cannons. They were, like, thrusting behind them, and the screen behind was, like, the visuals were shooting from the cannons.
Yeah, but, like, to just have them on the screen then. Like, it was stupid to have them on stage. Anyway, and then, like, the hot air balloon, that was terrible. Ireland was just terrible all around.
He was a little lad, and he gave it a shot, but he's in a hot air balloon... which doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't rise, that's the problem. Like, if you're going to drag a big prop hot air balloon, I want to see, like, towards the climax of the song, that thing's got to take off.
No, nothing really took off about Ireland. Very sad. Didn't get through the semis, didn't make it to the final. Sucks to be you, Ireland. We did have an entrant this year, again, for Australia, a little 17-year-old Isaiah Firebrace, a little... shy kid from country New South Wales going on and taking on the world. He kind of fucked up in his first semi-final. He got a little bit too excited, tried to hit some notes that were a little bit beyond him, and his voice kind of cracked, and he was very lucky to get through his semi, I thought his
song was shite too. I really didn't like the song. And it's got that horrible sort of forced cheap deep thing. It was tacky. I didn't like it.
Yeah, and his staging was pretty awkward too. They had him walking on like a circular kind of round thing, and he's singing and looking at the audience kind of over his shoulder, and I'm just like, oh, just stop making this shit hard for this kid. Like, he is a kid. He only won X Factor like last year. He's not particularly seasoned professional. He's just a kid. So my expectation for him was, as long as he didn't forget his words, I was going to be happy. And while he did kind of fuck up a little bit in his semi-final, he brought it back for the final. He didn't make any mistakes. He seemed a bit more confident. The song still not amazing, but he didn't fall in a heap as I thought he might have, because he'd had a few issues during the X Factor with a lot of anxiety and forgetting his words and all that kind of thing. So happy he got through it, but he's not our best entrant.
No, it sucked. What were some of your highlights? What are things you really liked? And then if people are curious, they can YouTube it.
All right. Well, number one, well, maybe not number one, but the first thing of the weekend was Montenegro. Good old Montenegro. This dude in a mesh shirt with a big ponytail plait right down to probably like past his bum.
Yeah, it was like an Avatar appendage.
Yeah, it really was. And I
look like he's big and blue with a tail.
Exactly like that, Sam. I could not tell you anything about the song. I don't remember.
It was about a spacesuit. Like, you had to have a spacesuit because they were going out. He was going to take you up to space. It was a bit sexy.
Oh, okay, cool. He was just like doing a bit of Willow Smith and whipping his hair back and forth.
He looked like
And,
Sacha Baron Cohen doing a character. Or like
He
a pitch for Zoolander 3.
He really was. But I thought he was fantastic. And he was honestly one of the best things about semi-final one. Semi-final one was boring as shit. Though semi-final one also had Sweden. And the Swedes are pretty consistently good in Eurovision. This guy looked like he'd been made in a lab or something. He was so like he was too good looking, but in a weird way.
And he tied a guy to a helicopter.
Yeah, that was I mean, like I know Sweden put a bit of money into their staging and stuff, but that just seemed excessive.
Yeah.
And made everybody else look bad. But
And covered in blood.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the cleanup, like the show is orchestrated like really down to the second, and to do that blood cleanup just really took time out of the show. It was really unfortunate. They had a real kind of okay go sort of treadmill setup, and they were doing their routine, sort of walking on these treadmills, and I thought the guy himself was a little bit average. I loved his 4 backup dancers. They were so fucking sassy. Yes, I enjoyed them a lot. I actually voted for Sweden because I just wanted the Eurovision to go back to Sweden next year because they're so good at hosting. Speaking of hosts,
Yeah.
there were the theme of Eurovision this year was celebrate diversity. Okay. And there's nothing more diverse than having 3 white guys host your Eurovision Song Contest.
Hey, to be fair, there were 3 young white guys.
You're right. And they weren't all like brunettes. There was a blonde one.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit diverse.
And one had a beard. And he was a little bit darker than the other ones.
Oh, he was. Yeah, he was, to be fair. I think he was my favourite. I don't remember any of their names. There was like Timon or something. That was the...
Yeah, Timon, there was Pumbaa.
Yeah. I like little Simba. He was fun.
There was Mufasa.
And there was like kind of 2 of them who were hosting, and then there was this little one, Timo or whatever, that was sort of shunned, and he would go off to the green room and do the interviews, and when they would do their sign-offs at the end of the night, the 2 would kind of address each other, and then he would just be sort of left by himself. So he ended up my favourite because the other 2 clearly hated him. And semi-final 1, I thought they were awful. Coming off Mans and Pietra from last year, these guys looked like a hunk of shit. And semi-final 2, I didn't mind them too much. The grand final, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I was not interested in their shit. Like, they were at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't want bad jokes and poorly, translated stuff. It was just like, get on, put the songs on, let's go, let's get this done. Part of that was actually quite funny. In the grand final, they, made reference to kind of how good Sweden was last year, and they had a whole thing of them going to host boot camp, which was they were put through their paces by Mans Zelmerlöw from last year. And Mans was showing them how to be good Eurovision hosts. And I liked that because I love Mans. And any addition of Mans into Eurovision is okay by me. So the final, I was expecting our little Isaiah to be very lucky to make the top 10. I have to be honest. I thought he was going to be 15 to 20. Which would have been our worst result. We've had the first year we came 5th. Last year we came 2nd, which was pretty amazing. And after the jury votes, because they do the...
No, I haven't watched this yet. I'm going to watch this tonight.
Okay. Do you or do you not want to be spoiled?
I'd rather not be totally spoiled.
Okay. Can I spoil Australia and then nothing else?
Sure.
Okay. So after the jury voting, he was 4th. Like, he was right up there after the jury voting, and I was quite shocked to say the least. But then once they put the public votes up, we only scored 3 points, which is incredibly low considering the other acts were probably getting 200, 300 points from the public vote. And a lot of people are saying that it's down to because during the grand final, the previous winner will come out and do some songs and stuff like that. She sang the song from that won the previous year and some of her original stuff. And during one of these performances, a guy got up on stage, sort of ran around her, dropped his pants, mooned the camera. But while he was doing this, he had an Australian flag on his shoulders. And so everyone's gone, holy shit, some dickhead drunk Australian has just got up and mooned the world. Which is not unexpected, to be fair. But it turned out there was actually a Ukrainian guy. There's like some serial pest who's just annoys the guy.
He's a very famous guy. He's the one that kissed Will Smith and gave the flowers to Madonna and put his head in the Leonardo DiCaprio's crotch.
Yes, yeah, that guy. So he got up with an Australian flag on his shoulders. Nobody knew that it was actually him at the time. And a lot of people are saying that that's why Isaiah missed out on a lot of votes, is because people were like, well, fuck Australia if they're going to turn up and do shit like that.
Well, he targets people that he doesn't think are usually worthy of the place that they're in. Like, he's targeted models who he doesn't believe are real models. So, clearly it's a dig at Australia. Like, why is Australia part of Eurovision? We don't belong here. Yeah. We're uncouth larrikins. And, he's putting the boot in there and not happy with us being part of the competition. One thing I wanted to say about that incident, because haven't watched it yet, but I saw that was trending, is I've complained a lot about the way people try and emulate Australians, whether it's Pacific Rim. Any time when like someone from another country tries to pretend to be an Australian, this guy had it spot on. And he was a very convincing Australian.
Yeah, no one doubted for a second that this was an Australian, which is so embarrassing. But, we must lie in the bed that we make.
That's true. And sometimes that means getting your crack out of your Dax.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not going to spoil the ultimate results. The extra... Because there's, in the grand final, the big five get to automatically qualify for the grand final. So they are the countries that contribute the most money to Eurovision, basically. And that's the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Germany and Spain. Okay, so they go directly through to the grand final. And the United Kingdom had their best entry in a long time. But unfortunately, because everybody hates the UK, they didn't poll very well. Italy is the favourite. Okay, Italy is the raging favourite for this competition. It's just a guy with a pretty catchy song. I do like the song, and he has someone in a gorilla suit dancing on the stage. That was his point of difference this year. Sorry.
Will Brexit mean that when that happens, the UK will no longer be able to do Eurovision?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
I wouldn't think so, because it's not I don't think it's the European Union as such. It's European Broadcasting Union, so I think it might be a different thing. But don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure.
All right.
And Germany was okay. Spain was pretty average. France, compared to delightful Amir from last year, a little bit flat. So, as always, the big five don't always deliver what they promise. I will say I was ultimately happy with the winner. I wasn't in the moment that they won, but then I was in the end.
If I may share some thoughts on my favourites, I definitely think if you're going to YouTube something, YouTube the Yodelling rap one. Who was that?
Romania.
That was a lot of fun. That guy had a lot of crazy energy. Mm-hmm. And I love just the visual of this woman yodeling with these crazy preschool graphics on the back. And him being like, yeah, and like leaning in towards her and everything. It was just, so good.
And she's only a baby. She's only 17 too. There's a lot of 17-year-olds.
Check out he was Croatian, right? This huge Croatian, well-groomed man who sings in two different voices, does a duet with himself, one sort of high-pitched and one a big baritone. That was pretty fantastic.
I really loved him.
I liked the three girls in the black sequin
Netherlands.
Yeah, they were pretty cool.
Little bit Wilson Phillips.
The blonde one just had like the most amazing Hollywood tape job happening. It was like that was the first bum that was on screen during Eurovision. And you know, the performer, the one that I really was disappointed didn't go through was it Lithuania, the lady in the red dress or the red jacket singing about revolution with the tall piece in her hair. It was towards the end of the...
Oh, yeah. She had it like a man bun with a pencil through it.
Yes, I thought she was amazing.
Yeah.
I loved that whole performance, that whole like silhouette. She looked like something out of Zoolander too. But that was fantastic. And the only other thing I wanted to say about this topic was that you had messaged me last night and said, "Oh, I think you might quite like Germany." And I said, because I knew you were suggesting that there might be someone in the German group that I would be attracted to. I'm watching the semi-final with Suzanne in bed on the iPad, watching stuff. There's quite a few people throughout, like the blonde aforementioned Hollywood tape girl and the Revolution girl, where I'm like, oh yeah, they're cute. She's nice. Oh, I like her. Then France comes on when they were talking to them, and I was like, oh, she's cute too. And then I was like, was it France is this the one Jacinta thinks that I like? And then I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's Germany. Germany comes on, and look, dude, you have me nailed. Like you, I just straight away was like, whoa, yeah, just straight away was like, oh, this is that's not just this is an attractive person. That was a whole other level. It was like this big, tall Lagertha-esque with the hair up and the sort of like the nose, everything. It was just perfect.
Yeah.
I was just
she had some really good angles. Like there was some like Catherine Winnick angles. There was some like ScarJo angles.
Yes, yeah.
There was Kate McKinnon angles. There was just like everything that you like in one person.
It was even the wide shot. They cut across to her and she's sitting in the middle with all these people. And I was like, oh shit, that's her. And I was like, my initial thing was, like current day Scarlet with the hair, and then I was like, oh no, but then there's like a Lagertha thing going on. But the funny thing is, like, I Google image searched her today and could not find like a single image that really captured that for me. But like, and she's got like different hairstyles and stuff in the past, and it just wasn't there. But in motion, like on that bit of footage, she's perfect. So I haven't watched her sing yet. They showed like a little bit of a clip, but and I've heard about the controversy about it being similar to another song, etc. But I'm looking forward to seeing that performance.
Yeah, it was actually, I found it a tiny little bit disappointing. Like, I saw that interview, I messaged you, went, okay, this is your Eurovision bae. And then I saw the song and I was like, like she, as long as she's kind of 3/4 to the camera, like she's sweet, but front on, I was like, I don't know. I hope Luke doesn't see this first and go, I'm not into that at all. But, No, I think you will like it. Speaking of Eurovision baes,
yes,
I think I was really spoilt last year. There was so many good-looking boys, including the host and a whole bunch of others. Oh, I was just so spoilt. This year, there was some slim pickings, I think. I was looking through going, I guess maybe he would be okay, but I feel like this is just not working for me.
A lot of the guys had the same look and the same haircut. They had this kind of like Ryan Reynolds' second cousin kind of vibe.
Yes. Well, I think the one I did eventually pick as Eurovision bae was probably one of those. It was a long time coming, the very final performance of semi-final 2, Israel.
Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, he was good. He was some good quality. And then someone sent me a video of him dancing shirtless to the Israeli entry from last year or the year before, Golden Boy, which has quite a sort of camp, sexy dance. And I was just like, this is everything I've ever wanted. So, yeah, he got through to the final, which was quite exciting. He was first up, so he made me feel pretty happy about my decision to get up at 3 a.m. But, he was fine. But I think, song quality, I don't think I'm going to be adding heaps to my Eurovision favourites playlist. Eurovision Bay, I don't think any are kind of going onto the all-time list. And yeah, while I was happy with the winner, it wasn't a very Eurovision-y song, and could have done better. But you know, at the end of the day, at least fucking Ukraine didn't win again.
So, Too Long Didn't Read version, you weren't. You were happy with the winner, but you would have been happier with a wiener.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's just a given.
There you go. All right. Well, what a show.
That's a big one.
That is a big one. That is a big old show. But that's what happens when we take a week off. Look, and we were at a quiz night last weekend, and we actually, with our Fruitless Pursuits team, and we actually did very well. We came second.
We did, yes.
We had our mojo back, by which I mean that we had Hector Wiener back, who we always do better when he's on the team. So that was quite an interesting story, and I could have told it with some gusto had we started with it, but I'm not interested in telling it
I
now.
kind of forgot.
So fuck that off. Let's get out of here. So thanks everybody for listening. We look forward to next week. We'll be talking about King Arthur. And do, as always, go to fruitlesspursuits.com to find out what we're doing. Links to our Facebook discussion group. We always love to hear from you guys. Also, like our page. Like us, reviewers, rate us on iTunes. Go to our Patreon. We recorded a second episode of Half Hour History.
Yes, we did.
Yesterday.
So that'll be another couple of weeks before it's launched, I think.
Yeah, but we are still definitely pursuing that, and that was a lot of fun as well. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.
We will see you next week.
Yeah.
There won't be another Camelot. Not another Camelot.